Isabella gently traced her fingers along the glossy paint of the fiery red Ferrari Portofino M, feeling the coolness of the metal beneath her fingertips. Her heart pounded faster, not just because of the car's flawless beauty, but because of the special meaning it carried. This wasn't merely a birthday gift for her younger sister. It was a symbol of love and the unbreakable bond between the two of them. As she opened the door to admire the interior, Isabella's eyes suddenly caught sight of a small card, neatly placed on the driver's seat. Curious, she picked it up, immediately noticing the luxurious texture of the paper and the faint, elegant fragrance wafting from it. In delicate, handwritten script, the words unfolded before her. What you seek lies beyond appearances. Look deeper to uncover the truth. Isabella's brows knitted slightly. She lifted her gaze, scanning the showroom for any clue about who might have left this mysterious card. Yet, everything seemed perfectly ordinary. The staff were busy with their tasks, and customers continued browsing the other car models. A strange feeling crept into her mind, as if a hidden secret was lurking behind the showroom's dazzling facade. A chill ran down Isabella's spine, not from the room's temperature, but from the uncanny, enigmatic nature of the situation. She couldn't help but wonder, was this just some elaborate prank, or did the card carry a deeper message? Unanswered questions stirred restlessly within her, but at the same time, they ignited a spark of curiosity and determination to uncover the truth behind this mysterious note. Isabella Moretti, a successful entrepreneur with a humble demeanor, stepped into the prestigious H.R. Owen car showroom in London. Despite her considerable wealth, she always maintained a simple appearance, and today, she chose an elegant pair of jeans paired with a pristine white blouse. Her mission was to find a special birthday gift for her younger sister, the Ferrari Portofino M, a symbol of perfection in the world of sports cars. As she walked through the grand glass doors of the showroom, Isabella was immediately captivated by the luxurious and magnificent atmosphere inside. Exquisite sports cars were displayed under sophisticated lighting, reflecting flawless design and engineering. The soft background music, combined with the distinctive scent of leather and fresh metal, created an utterly enchanting ambience. Isabella's gaze settled on the fiery red Ferrari Portofino M, which stood out brilliantly in the space. She approached it, admiring every graceful, meticulous curve of the car. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, and her heart swelled with happiness at the thought of how thrilled her sister would be to receive this gift. As she was lost in admiration, a voice suddenly called out from behind. "Good afternoon, miss. May I assist you with something?" She turned around to face a well-groomed, middle-aged man in a perfectly tailored suit. He was Richard Grant, the showroom's top salesperson, renowned for his ability to assess customers at a glance. However, there was a clear trace of doubt in his eyes as he took in Isabella's modest attire. Isabella responded with a gentle smile, fully aware of Richard's appraisal, but maintaining her confident composure. "Good afternoon. I'm interested in this Ferrari Portofino M and would like to know more details about it." Richard raised an eyebrow slightly, his tone carrying a hint of hesitation. "Are you certain, miss? This is quite an expensive model. You might find our range of pre-owned vehicles more to your comfort." His words felt like a bucket of cold water poured over Isabella. She could sense the condescension in every syllable, yet she kept her composure, though her smile faltered just a little. "Thank you for the suggestion, but I am genuinely interested in this particular model." Richard sighed softly, crossing his arms over his chest as his gaze swept over Isabella with evident skepticism. "This vehicle starts at £500,000. Typically, we work with pre-approved clients or those who have a long-standing relationship with the showroom." Those words pierced Isabella's pride like needles. She felt a wave of frustration and disappointment, but she refused to let it show. Unwilling to prolong this tense conversation, Isabella decided to leave the showroom, leaving Richard behind with his narrow-minded assumptions. On her way home, Isabella's mind swirled with conflicting thoughts and emotions. She couldn't believe that, in this modern world, there were still people who judged others solely by their appearance. Yet, She also realized that this was the perfect opportunity to teach Richard an unforgettable lesson. Never judge a person by their clothes or their outward appearance. Isabella left the H.R. Owen showroom with a heavy heart. Richard Grant's words and attitude kept echoing in her mind, making her feel judged and belittled solely because of her modest appearance. Yet, instead of letting anger take over, Isabella chose to turn this negative experience into an opportunity for education and change. That evening, in the luxurious penthouse they owned in the heart of London, Isabella shared the story with her husband, Alexander Moretti, a billionaire in the tech industry. Protective of his family and naturally decisive, Alexander was outraged upon hearing how his wife had been treated. "It's absolutely unacceptable that you were treated that way just because of your outfit," Alexander said, his eyes sharp as ice. "I'll buy that showroom and fire that man immediately." Isabella gently placed her hand over his, stopping him softly. "No, Alex. Punishment isn't the only way. I want him to understand his mistake and change from within." Alexander gazed deeply into his wife's eyes, seeing the determination and compassion shining there. He nodded, agreeing to her plan. The next morning, a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up in front of the H.R. Owen showroom. Alexander stepped out, dressed in an impeccable, expensive suit, exuding power and authority. Instantly, Richard Grant recognized the distinguished guest and hurried over with a professional smile. "Good morning, sir. I'm Richard Grant. It's an honor to assist you today." Richard greeted him with utmost respect. Alexander shook his hand, his gaze icy. "I am Alexander Moretti. I'm here to discuss an issue concerning your customer service." Richard looked slightly flustered, but maintained his professional composure. "Of course, sir. Please, let's move to my office." In the office, Alexander recounted Isabella's experience from the day before, emphasizing Richard's unprofessional and discriminatory attitude. Richard's face paled as he realized the severity of his mistake. I truly apologize for my behavior. I didn't realize she was..." Richard stammered. Alexander cut him off, his tone firm. "It doesn't matter who she is. Every customer deserves respect, regardless of their appearance or status." Richard lowered his head, remorseful. "I understand, sir. I'll do everything I can to make this right." Alexander watched him for a moment before speaking. "I want you to participate in a customer service and bias awareness training program. Additionally, I want you to spend time working at one of my wife's charitable organizations to better understand the true value of people." Richard nodded, determined. "I will do that, sir. Thank you for giving me the chance to make amends." Following their meeting, Richard genuinely took part in charitable activities and training programs, gradually transforming his perspective and attitude. Isabella and Alexander kept track of his progress, feeling gratified to see a man change for the better. This story reminds us never to judge people by their outward appearance. Respect and compassion can inspire positive change, helping to build a fairer and more humane society. After Richard Grant completed the customer service training program and participated in charitable activities at Isabella's organization, he began to realize the true value of treating every customer with fairness and respect. These experiences profoundly changed his perspective and attitude toward his work. A few months later, Isabella decided to return to the H.R. Owen showroom to finalize the purchase of the Ferrari Portofino M as a birthday gift for her younger sister. This time, she maintained the same simple style of dress as before. As Isabella entered the showroom, Richard immediately recognized her. He approached with a genuine smile and a professional demeanor. "Good morning, ma'am. I'm Richard Grant. I deeply regret your previous experience here and would be honored to serve you better today." Isabella smiled, sensing the sincerity in Richard's words. "Thank you, Richard. I appreciate the change I see in you. I'm still interested in the Ferrari Portofino M for my sister." Richard nodded and guided Isabella to the display area of the car. He provided detailed information about the vehicle, from its engine performance to its safety features and luxurious amenities. Isabella felt genuinely pleased with Richard's professionalism and dedication this time around. After completing the purchase formalities, Richard spoke. "Ms. Isabella, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to correct my mistakes and learn. My experiences at your charitable organization have opened my eyes to a new understanding of human values and customer service." Isabella replied, "I'm very glad to see your positive transformation, Richard. What's important is that we learn from our mistakes and continuously strive to improve." This story emphasizes that judging people by their appearance can lead to serious mistakes. Respect and fairness in customer service not only enhance the customer experience, but also help build a business's reputation and credibility. The following morning, gentle sunlight filtered through the historic buildings of London, casting its glow across the crystal-clear glass facade of the H.R. Owen showroom, a true sanctuary for luxury car enthusiasts. The entire showroom seemed to awaken, with impeccably dressed staff moving in perfect rhythm, meticulously polishing every gleaming curve of the extravagant supercars. The already luxurious atmosphere grew even more charged with anticipation as the deep, throaty purr of an engine echoed through the space, instantly capturing everyone's attention. Through the massive glass panels, they spotted a dark blue Rolls-Royce Phantom, a rare, one-of-a-kind limited edition, slowly gliding to a stop at the main entrance. All eyes, filled with both curiosity and admiration, turned toward the car. Even a few VIP clients touring the showroom paused to watch. The chauffeur stepped out, his movements precise and refined, and gracefully opened the rear door with pristine white-gloved hands. From within the car, Alexander Moretti emerged. At that very moment, time itself seemed to pause. His presence radiated absolute power, an astounding calm behind his sharp eyes that seemed to see straight through everything. His bespoke suit hugged his tall frame perfectly, the cuff of his shirt revealing a platinum timepiece reserved only for the elite of the elite. Richard Grant, the man who had unwittingly insulted Isabella the previous day, immediately sensed that something was amiss. His heart tightened, and a cold sweat broke out across his palms. Yet, relying on his professional instincts, he quickly composed himself, forcing a warm smile, as if he were welcoming a head of state. "Sir, welcome to H.R. Owen." Richard stepped forward briskly, extending his hand in hopes of making a favorable impression. "I'm Richard Grant, and it's an honor to serve you today." Alexander shook his hand, though his gaze pierced coldly through Richard's professional facade. "Alexander Moretti," he introduced himself firmly, each word landing heavily in the air. "I'm here to continue the transaction that my wife had to pause yesterday. You may recall her, Isabella Moretti." Immediately, Richard's face drained of color, turning as pale as a sheet of paper. Memories of the previous day's conversation came flooding back, replaying in his mind like an unstoppable slow-motion reel. The condescension, the dismissive attitude he had shown toward the modestly dressed woman now felt like a sharp blade twisting in his pride. The atmosphere in the showroom grew suffocatingly tense. Other customers whispered among themselves while the staff stood frozen in place, the air thick with unspoken tension. Richard struggled to maintain his composure, but his voice had begun to tremble. That must have been, surely, a misunderstanding." Alexander's lip curled into a slight smirk, though the smile never reached his eyes. "I don't think so, Richard. You looked at my wife and judged her by her modest appearance. Perhaps you should prepare yourself for the consequences of such shallow assumptions." Before Richard could respond, Alexander signaled to his assistant. Without delay, she, an astute woman dressed in a sleek black suit, produced a folder of documents. "These are the contracts for our corporate fleet purchase, valued at over £3 million, she explained. "But the final decision will depend entirely on how this showroom resolves the incident from yesterday." Her words landed like a thunderous blow to Richard's gut. He could feel, with painful clarity, the full weight of the consequences from his thoughtless actions the day before, now crashing down on him like an unavoidable storm. Alexander slowly circled the Ferrari Portofino M, his eyes evaluating not just the car, but every person present. "Your problem, Richard, isn't just about losing a sale. You're standing on the threshold of the most valuable lesson in your entire sales career." Silence engulfed the showroom, thick and heavy. And this was only the beginning. The air inside the H.R. Owen showroom grew thick, as if every molecule had frozen in breathless anticipation of what was about to unfold. Alexander Moretti stood firm, like an unshakable monument, his piercing gaze locked on Richard Grant, the once confident salesman now visibly unraveling. Beads of sweat glistened on Richard's forehead, betraying the tension boiling beneath his professional facade. The owner of the showroom, Nathaniel Carter, rushed out from his office upon hearing the commotion. A distinguished gentleman with salt and pepper hair, he ruled over the showroom with an iron fist in a velvet glove. Taking in the scene before him, Nathaniel instantly grasped the gravity of the situation. Bowing respectfully to Alexander, he spoke in a deep, composed voice. "Mr. Moretti, on behalf of the showroom, I sincerely apologize for the unacceptable experience your wife endured yesterday. I promise to do everything in my power to make amends." Alexander didn't spare Nathaniel a glance, keeping his steely gaze fixed on Richard. "It's one thing for the owner to apologize," he said, his voice cutting like a blade. "But what about the man directly responsible? Richard, what do you have to say?" Richard drew a deep breath, desperately trying to regain the composure that had all but abandoned him. I truly apologize, Mr. Moretti. I was wrong to let prejudice cloud my judgment." Alexander's lips curled into a smirk, but this time, a spark of challenge flashed in his eyes. "Apologies are easy, Richard, but I want to see action. I'll give you a chance, but under one condition. For the next month, you will serve as a special advisor to my wife's charity, the Moretti Foundation. You will participate in every program supporting children with disabilities, work in the kitchens for charity meals, and personally lead fundraising efforts with our partners." Gasps rippled through the showroom. Richard's eyes widened in disbelief. "Sir, me?" Alexander continued calmly, his voice steady yet commanding. "Not only that, I want you to enroll in a specialized training program on social bias led by experts from the foundation. And each day, you will keep a personal journal reflecting on the lessons you've learned. At the end of the month, you will read it aloud in front of every employee in this showroom." The tension in the air was so thick it felt like you could hear a pin drop. Nathaniel Carter clenched his fists, understanding this was their final chance to salvage the reputation of H.R. Owen. But Alexander wasn't finished. He walked slowly toward the Ferrari Portofino M, pausing to study the car as if weighing something far more significant. "And finally, Richard," Alexander said, his voice low but sharp as molten steel, "if, during this journey, you can discover at least one inspiring story from the children you help, you will earn the chance to become the National Director of Customer Service for the dealership network I'm expanding. If not, well, you know what you must do." The atmosphere erupted. His proposal wasn't just a punishment. It was a ticket to transformation, both a sentence and a reward. But Richard would have to seize it with his own hands. Nathaniel, gathering his resolve, stepped forward boldly, locking eyes with Richard. "Richard, I will personally oversee your journey, and all of us here will learn from your story. This is no longer just a personal matter. This is an opportunity to cleanse the reputation of our entire showroom." Richard swallowed hard, then bowed deeply to both Alexander and Nathaniel. I accept. I will not betray your trust, Mr. Moretti." Alexander nodded slightly, his expression still cool, but a flicker of quiet satisfaction sparkled in his eyes. "Good. I don't care who you were, Richard. I care about who you will become after this trial. Prove yourself." As if to close this high-stakes confrontation, Alexander turned and swept his gaze across the entire showroom, leaving them with a final statement as sharp as a blade slicing through the tension. "Arrogance and prejudice have no place where people are to be served. Today, I'm not just buying a car. I'm buying your transformation. Don't disappoint me." With that, Alexander and his assistant exited the showroom, leaving behind a room full of stunned onlookers and profound lessons that would echo in their minds for a long time to come. The very next day, Richard Grant arrived at the Moretti Foundation, not a glitzy supercar showroom, but a place radiating an unusual warmth. The pristine white gates swung open, welcoming him with the bright smiles of children with disabilities playing in the courtyard. Richard stepped inside, his emotions in turmoil. He had never imagined himself standing in a place like this. Wearing the volunteer uniform prepared by Isabella's assistant, he felt an initial wave of awkwardness, even discomfort. The simple attire was a far cry from the expensive suits he was used to. "Welcome to the Moretti Foundation family." The cheerful voice startled Richard. It was Lucia, the foundation's executive director, a woman full of passion, her radiant smile and eyes brimming with unshakable belief in the good of the world. The first day was anything but easy. Richard was assigned to the charity kitchen. He had to work alongside the chefs, preparing hundreds of meals for children and struggling families. His clumsy movements scattered flour everywhere, and at one point, he even dropped an entire pot of freshly made soup. Laughter erupted from the children, but it wasn't mocking. It was innocent, carefree joy. A boy named Thomas, sitting in a wheelchair, looked at him with gentle empathy. "Mr. Richard, do you need me to show you how to scoop the flour? I've got the hang of it." Thomas beamed. Richard paused, his expression softening. "Thank you, Thomas. I could certainly use your help," he replied, smiling for the first time that day. The next day, Richard joined an art class for children with disabilities. At first, he sat quietly in the corner, observing the tiny hands clumsily yet determinedly gripping paintbrushes, creating colorful paintings filled with hope. A little girl named Emily, paralyzed on one side of her body, worked tirelessly to finish a painting of a bright blue sky and a vibrant red sports car. "I'm painting a Ferrari," Emily explained, her eyes sparkling. "One day I'll drive one." Her words struck Richard like an arrow to the heart. Memories of the showroom, of his cold, dismissive gaze as he judged people by appearances, flashed through his mind. He crouched beside Emily, picked up a brush, and helped her complete the final strokes. In the days that followed, Richard continued writing in the journal Alexander had required. At first, the pages were sparse, containing only a few lines. But gradually, they blossomed with heartfelt reflections. Day 3. I met Thomas, the boy who taught me patience in the kitchen. A small teacher, but a great one. Day 5. Emily showed me that dreams aren't limited by the body, but by the soul. I used to confine people with my biases, but now I'm beginning to tear down those walls. One evening, after a successful fundraising event driven largely by Richard's enthusiastic participation, Lucia sought him out. "You know, Richard," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "I used to believe that people like you could never truly understand the value of what we do here. But you've proven me wrong." Richard gazed into the distance, his eyes shadowed with memories. He shared with Lucia a part of his past no one here had known, about his older brother, paralyzed since childhood, who had once taught him the meaning of perseverance. But as success came too quickly, Richard had left his brother behind, burying that painful memory deep within. "I forgot about the brother I love the most," Richard confessed, his voice thick with regret. "Maybe this is my chance to make things right." Lucia gently squeezed his hand. "And you're doing just that, Richard." Later that week, during a photo session for the foundation, Thomas hugged Richard tightly and whispered, "Mr. Richard, you're like a hero to us. You make me believe that anyone can change." In that moment, Richard felt his heart swell and burst. The glitter of the showroom, the profit margins, the million-pound deals, all of it seemed to fade into insignificance. What remained was the pure, radiant warmth of these small but mighty souls standing before him. Richard lifted his gaze toward the horizon, where the golden sunset bathed the Moretti Foundation courtyard in light. A fierce determination surged within him, not just to redeem himself, but to live a life he could truly be proud of. The Moretti Foundation Charity Gala unfolded in one of London's most magnificent venues, Claridge's Grand Ballroom. Dazzling crystal chandeliers cast reflections across the ceiling like thousands of stars shining bright. Esteemed guests from all over the world gathered, including top business leaders, global dignitaries, and loyal supporters of the foundation. Richard Grant, now dressed in a simple yet refined suit, stood backstage, his heart swirling with mixed emotions. Beside him were Thomas and Emily, two young souls who had become his cherished companions on this journey of transformation. "Mr. Richard, are you okay?" Thomas looked up at him, his eyes glistening. Richard smiled warmly, his gaze filled with newfound resolve. "Today is an important day for us, Thomas. Let's show everyone the true power of change," he replied, his voice trembling slightly but charged with passion. On stage, Lucia, the director of the Moretti Foundation, was delivering her speech. She spoke of the relentless efforts of all the volunteers and, in particular, of one person whose extraordinary journey had deeply moved them all. "Tonight, I would like to invite someone very special to the stage," Lucia said with a smile, turning toward the backstage area. "A man who has walked a path of redemption, not just for himself, but as an inspiration to us all, Richard Grant." Thunderous applause filled the ballroom. Richard stepped into the brilliant stage lights, his eyes sweeping across the room to where Alexander Moretti and Isabella sat in the front row. Their gaze met his, not with judgment, but with anticipation. Richard began his speech, his voice quivering at first, but growing steadily stronger. "When I first walked into the Moretti Foundation, I thought I was just fulfilling an obligation to keep my job. But what I received was something far beyond my expectations." He spoke of Thomas and Emily, of the vast dreams hidden within their small yet indomitable frames. He spoke of his early clumsy days in the kitchen, of the deep reflections he had poured into his journal. And then Richard's voice caught momentarily. "I realized that in seeking the value of others, I found myself again. I once had an older brother, paralyzed since childhood, who taught me about patience and love. But I let success blind me to everything. Tonight, I want to say what I have buried deep inside for so many years. I'm sorry, my brother." Suddenly, the ballroom lights softened. From the back, a figure quietly made his way toward the stage, aided by an attendant pushing his wheelchair. It was Richard's brother, James Grant. He smiled, eyes shimmering with pride and emotion. The entire ballroom fell silent, then erupted in applause and tearful cries of joy. Richard dropped to his knees, taking his brother's hand, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I've been away from you for too long, James. But from this day on, I will never turn my back on you again." James gripped his brother's hand tightly, his voice thick with emotion. "I never blamed you, Richard. I was only waiting for the day you'd find your true self again. And tonight you have." At that moment, the atmosphere in the ballroom exploded with emotion. Isabella clasped Alexander's hand, her eyes brimming with tears. Even Alexander, the man known for his steely composure, could not hide his emotion, his gaze full of pride as he looked at Richard. After the speech, Alexander ascended the stage. He looked across the entire ballroom, then fixed his gaze on Richard and declared firmly, "Richard Grant, you have not only completed your challenge, but you have inspired us all. I hereby appoint you as the National Director of Customer Service for Moretti Motors." The applause was deafening. Richard bowed deeply, overwhelmed with pride and gratitude. Alexander continued, his voice rich and resonant, echoing across the grand hall. "Remember this. A person's worth is not measured by million-pound cars or lofty titles. True worth lies in how we treat those around us, especially the most vulnerable." The gala concluded with warm embraces, sincere handshakes, and beaming smiles from everyone present. The Moretti Foundation had not only transformed one man, but had illuminated an entire community. Outside, fireworks lit up the London sky, as brilliant and breathtaking as Richard Grant's extraordinary journey of transformation. Lesson learned: never judge someone by their appearance. Kindness and second chances have the power to transform lives and inspire whole communities. Message: respect and empathy aren't just good manners. They're how we make the world a better place, one person at a time. Personal takeaway: what touched me most was how Richard found himself again through the trust and opportunity given to him. Sometimes, people don't need punishment. They need a door to change their life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like it, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Talk Story for more inspiring stories that will move your soul.